On the field. Off the field. Sports talk. Entertainment and more. This is Sauce on the Side.
Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to episode 105 of the Sauce on the Side podcast. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Drake, joined by the man, the producer, Mr. Leighton Pip Shaventone.
I don't think that's how to make the playoffs. Not looking good.
Definitely not looking good. And our guest host for today, Fletcher Hoy.
You know, the biggest thing in the NBA that's happened since we stopped doing Hump Day Hoops Hysteria is Russell Westbrook going to the Rockets. I just want to briefly touch on that since I haven't been able to. You know, it spells disaster when you look at it because both guys are 1 and 2 in the NBA for turnovers and usage. And on top of that, you know, Russell Westbrook is not great at playing off the ball because he can't shoot at all anymore. But the one thing that, you know, is a kind of a saving grace for the Rockets right now is they have the one thing that the Oklahoma City Thunder never had, and that was shooting around the court. So there is a chance it could work. They're going to be tough for teams, but it's smelling like disaster right now.
Western Conference Finals or not?
That's hard to say. I'm going to have to say no because I've seen Russell shrink in the first round of the playoffs, shoot horrible percentages from the field, and the longer the season goes on, the more James Harden gets tired and worn down, and it shows badly. So I don't think so.
Okay. So, Dippers, be sure to listen on Spotify and iTunes. Download, subscribe, and give us a 5-star review. Follow on Twitter and Instagram at TheSaucyPod. Dippers, today's show is brought to you by Nubability Athletics. They instruct, inspire, and encourage congenital and traumatic amputees to compete in mainstream sports. They have camps throughout the United States and Southern Illinois for limb-different youth and amputees ages 4 through 17. You can follow them on Instagram at Nubability Athletics, and you can also follow at Sam Kunert. That's at SAMKUHNERT on Instagram as well for more. So today we actually have a very good show for you today. We are going to give our the basketball tournaments, our starting lineups, and our sixth man. We have an interview for you today of Mike Roach. He works for 24/7 Sports, covers the Texas Longhorns football team. We are going to talk a little bit about John Harbaugh. Anytime his name comes across our table, we get excited, and have a little bit of MLB chatter for you today. Oh, also, fantasy football right around the corner. So today marks the first day of our fantasy football breakdowns. They will kind of go on as the season into the season, and we'll give our top 5 at each position, some guys who are sleepers to watch out for, what have you. So first on the docket here, we have TBT.
Throwback Thursday.
Throwback Thursday. No, the basketball tournament. It's called Oh, There They Are. It is our Oh, There They Are lineup. You have guys in this thing that have played in the NBA. You have guys in this thing that were awesome college basketball players that you haven't heard of for a long time, basically coming out of the woodworks to play in the basketball tournament. So what we're going to do today, we're going to give our starting 5 of players and a sixth man that we had no idea where they were until we saw them in the basketball tournament. Leighton C., do you want to go first?
Oh, yes, I'll go first. So, leading my team is Aaron Kraft and Perry Ellis. They used to play Ohio State and Kansas, and I was
Perry Ellis is a good one.
Wait a second. They're not still at Ohio State and Kansas?
No, I was confused to see them there, because I figured they were preparing for the tentative eligibility. But I guess they just said, the hell with college basketball, let's go try to make a couple $1,000. So they're leading my team.
I'm pretty sure this officially ends their eligibility, though, as college basketball players.
Sad day to see it. Sad day. And then also on the starting lineup, I have Bernard King. He's out there for more of IQ. He's like 40 years old. I thought he was probably retired sooner by now, but he had a very good NBA career. So he knows the game super well. And then
Bernard King.
Then Jordan Crawford. Last I heard of him, he was talking to Stephon Jackson about how he high-fouled George Karl because he passed the first drug test of the season.
Oh, and my.
And in the paint, I have Isaac Hall, a 7'3" center. Drake's one of my favorite basketball players of all time, locking it down. And then off the bench, I have PJ Hairston. Last I heard of him, he was clanking 3 for me in 2K like 12 or 13.
Wow.
But I don't know.
That's a pretty good
I
lineup.
have my lineup.
Yeah, I actually like your lineup a lot. Actually, a spoiler alert: I have two of the same guys in the starting rotation that you have.
All right.
I knew as soon as I saw Perry Ellis and Aaron Kraft that they'd be in both your guys' lists, or at least one of them would. So I didn't even bother mentioning them. I just run through point guard through 6-man. For my point guard, I got Kevin Dillard. Probably not a lot of people know about him, but he was actually Mr. Basketball in the state of Illinois back in 2007. Played at my alma mater for 2 years at SIU in Carbondale. Transferred to Dayton. Made the NCAA tournament a couple of times. Had a great time there. My next guy, another guy you're probably not going to know. His name's Trey Green. Went to Richmond University. He was a Richmond Spider. Before going to Richmond, he played at my other alma mater of John A. Logan College. And then, so he's in the freaking basketball tournament, which is blowing my mind. I swear to God, yes. And on top of that, his photo that he submitted to the website or whatever was him on a Team USA jersey. So maybe that guy was just a lot better than what we realized when we were watching him. But he played on that same team with Mike Schmidt. You remember Mike Schmidt?
Oh, yeah.
I remember Mike Schmidt. Mike Schmidt was not good.
No. But my next guy, you guys might have heard of him. You might not have. His name's Joe Alexander. He played at West Virginia. White dude. He was like 6'8" or 6'9". Got drafted in the second round. And I can't remember. I guess he flamed out because I don't hear about him anymore. But I was so big on him because he was such a freak athlete, man. He was like a 5-star athlete. I guess it just turns out that he wasn't, particularly that great at basketball. My next guy, you know him, you love him, you know he was going to be on the list if you know me at all. It's Kyle Hines, man.
Oh, yeah, I knew he was going to be on your list.
They did him a favor. They did him a favor, dude. They put him at 6'7". I still prefer the 6'5" version who plays center. I still prefer that version of Kyle Hines the best. I actually know he's in Moscow playing right now, or professionally in Russia, just because I follow him on Instagram. My center is Isaiah Austin, the guy from Baylor, the 7'1" center from Baylor, gonna get drafted. I think he had like a rare heart condition or something like that, and it prevented him from passing medical tests, and he couldn't play in the NBA. So that was really sad. I always thought he could be like a Tyson Chandler that was also like a stretch 5. He could defend the rim really well, but then he could, just spot up outside like Channing Frye almost. So that was pretty awesome to see. I thought he was going to have a really great role in the NBA. And then my last guy, my 6 minutes, Malik Pope. He was a big fish that initially was going to go to St. John's, and then decided to go to San Diego State. He was always a what could have been kind of guy for me. I have no idea what he's up to. I guess he's not doing a whole lot as far as the NBA is concerned. But when I saw him on a roster here, I was like, yep, that's my 6 man. I got to have him on there somewhere. So
yeah, I remember whenever Malik Pope was coming out of high school, everybody had him for the next year's draft, like super high, and then he had a freak incident where he just basically passed out on the court, and then after that, nothing really went his way.
Yeah, it was like he kind of kept going down and down. But yeah, it's crazy. He was on, a lot of draft boards early and then kind of played his way out of them, unfortunately.
Yeah, so my team, very, very interesting roster we have in front of me. At point guard, I have Rob Gray. Guys, this man is only 1 year removed from dropping 39 points on San Diego State in the NCAA basketball tournament. If you guys don't know anything about San Diego State, nobody drops 39 points on them. He averaged 25 points per game in his last month of college basketball. But this last season, grabbed a total of 6 minutes for the Rockets. Now is in the TBT, playing for Team Fredette. Rob Gray, absolute stud in college basketball. He was actually, they got beat by Michigan last year. If you guys can't remember, whenever, I think it was Jordan Poole hit that last second shot for Michigan to send him above. Houston, he was the guy from Houston with the ponytail, all-time college basketball player. Next up, my shooting guard, same as Layton's, Jordan Crawford. 1 year at Indiana, 1 year at Xavier. Had to transfer whenever all that Kelvin Sampson stuff happened. Drafted 27th by the Hawks in 2010. Played for the Hawks, Wizards, Celtics, Warriors, and Pelicans. Now, he plays for Boeheim's Army, despite never playing for the Syracuse Orange, or never playing in the state of New York.
I noticed that when going through the list. He's the only player on the team that had nothing to do with Syracuse.
Absolutely. They get a ring.
I love those team names, dude. The Kansas one is self-made. I love that.
Did you see the team that Kyle Hines is playing for?
Yeah, it's like Team Hines or something like that.
Team Hines.
What a baller, dude.
So at the small forward position, I actually have Clay Anthony Early.
What a guy.
Plays for the Aftershocks. So if anybody remembers that team from Wichita State that ended up playing Kentucky in the NCAA tournament, they were the 1 seed. I think Kentucky was either an 8-9. He was the dude that absolutely baptized Willie Cauley-Stein.
Yes.
Drafted by the Knicks in 2015. He actually got shot in Queens after being robbed. Playing in the basketball tournament now, really never made it back to full strength to play in the basketball in the NBA after that. Power forward, Ethan Happ, Wisconsin Badger, played his last college basketball game exactly 3 months ago to the day. 17 points, 10 rebounds a game. Not good enough to get you on anybody's summer league team except for the Bulls. And apparently playing in the basketball tournament is more fun than playing for the Bulls. Plays for Cold-Blooded, that is the Wisconsin alum team. At the center position, I have Isaac Haas, Purdue big man. He's like 8 foot tall. Maybe had the worst calendar year, though, just last year. Broke his elbow in the first round. Doesn't get drafted. Got sued by somebody claiming that he gave them chlamydia. Actually
Damn.
got dismissed by the court. Now he's playing in the basketball tournament. He's playing for Armored Athlete, and if you guys have watched basketball tournament in the past, the Armored Athlete team is really, really good, and he's actually on that team this year, so I expect big things from them. I'm going to have you guys do something real quick. Everybody get out your phone and Google the name Tyler Laser. Last name is spelled Laser. I'm going to give you a little rundown on him. He is the GOAT of Eastern Illinois basketball. He plays for the team called Showtime. He was the MVP of the Bulgaria and Romania basketball leagues. The reason why he's on here is if you look at his picture, he looks like he could potentially be in some kind of biker organization, not on a basketball court. He's only like 6 foot tall, has some questionable tattoos, bald head, big beard. Kind of looks like me if I had some rough tattoo work. But Tyler Laser is my GOAT. And I had to throw this on here for everybody who may not have been watching the basketball tournament. Guys, Boogie Cousins is coming back. He's coming back to the NBA on back-to-back mid-level exception contracts, and he's still sponsoring a team. He's paying for everything for these players, including travel. He's setting these guys up in nice hotels. Like, he is taking care of this team, and he's not taking a dime from if they win. All these GMs that are putting together teams that are, multi-million-dollar athletes like Chris Paul. Chris Paul's even taking $100,000 right off the top if his team wins. Boogie Cousins isn't asking for a dime if his team wins, and everybody questions what kind of human being this guy is. I don't know if you can question him as a human being, more as just maybe a guy to play with, but hats off to Boogie Cousins, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
So I have a question for you about this.
Yes.
We talked about the show before how all these young, high school seniors are going to play in Australia. Why don't they just convince, 8 of them to play in Australia, but then play in this thing before they go? 'Cause, with the 8 best high school players in the country, they have a chance to win this thing?
Yeah, if they just put together, a McDonald's All-American All-Star team.
Yeah, and then they did this. They're all going to play in Australia for a fucking year or two, and then came to the NBA.
That would actually be genius.
Yeah.
I like that.
Profit.
Yeah, I'm all about that.
So you think that would
Make
be
a quick 6 figures and then go stack your bread up real good.
Oh, yeah.
So you think that'd be a quick 6 figures, Jake?
Yeah, that could be a quick 6 figures, especially since those guys are young and can run up and down the court, unlike a lot of these teams that I've been watching.
Are you mind blown that LeVar Ball didn't think of this first?
I'm actually surprised that LeVar Ball isn't the starting 4 with his 3 sons out there and some other guy.
You have any more thoughts for us?
Yes, I do.
It was all a dream. I used to read Run Up magazine.
Ben Simmons, officially the highest paid basketball player in NBA history to never make a 3-point attempt. San Diego Padres. Nothing says more about your luck with no hitters than the only competent hitter on the Marlins team taking you deep in an 8th inning of the game. New basketball idea. The winner of the basketball tournament should play the winner of the Summer League in a best-of-3 series. No prize involved, I just want to see it. The Elam ending. It really took a college professor to figure out how to end every single game on a game winner. The NFL. The only place where no evidence for deflating footballs will get you 4 games, and physical evidence for beating a child will get you 0. Pete Alonso, strongest man in the MLB. Pete Alonso, Yasiel Puig, table ladder chair match, WrestleMania, Vince McMahon, book it. Here right now is your yearly reminder that rookies have officially started reporting to minicamp. And already, the Falcons now have 2 players on the IR for what seems like the 10th straight year. Matthew Berry already released his player rankings for the season. A little tip on how to win your fantasy league. Take what he says, throw it in the trash, then start picking your players.
Ain't that the truth?
Boston Red Sox, your defending champions, lost a series to the Orioles. Late and see, the season is truly a speed bump.
Ain't that the truth?
The New York Yankees, if any other manager for any other team had a rant at home plate calling their players savages, it would be awesome. But nothing on this earth is less savage than a bunch of clean-shaven men wearing pinstripes. And there's a new movie out this week. It's titled The Worst Month of the Year, and it was written by The Wide World of Sports. And those have been my thoughts.
Spoke a lot of truth today. A lot of things I agree with right there. 3 in a row, actually.
Truth speaker. That's what I call those. Not my thoughts. Just speaking the truth. So, guys, a little NFL news. I kind of hinted at it with my thoughts there. Tyreek Hill gets a 0-game suspension for probably abusing his child. There was a cryptic audio of him basically admitting to it, telling the mother of his child that she should be scared too. Are you guys surprised that the NFL went this route?
Yeah, I am surprised at this route. I don't think against Spencer at all. Because it's the NFL. Because the NFL is already like the worst PR for any organization, I guess, imaginable. Like, and then 2 weeks ago, they wanted to play 18 games and not have play every game, telling you that's all about money. Now Tyreek Hill, one of the game's most popular players, very important part of a really good team, no suspension at all. This is another thing where they tell me, we don't care what we put on the field, you're going to pay to watch it, so they're just going to do it.
Well, I mean, I can't say I'm too surprised, to be honest with you. I mean, in the tape, his, at the time, then fiance was saying that, she accused him of breaking his arm. She said he's terrified of you, and he told her, you ought to be scared of me too. All this stuff. I kind of see. It sucks because he probably did it, but since the NFL used that piece of tape as their strong supporting evidence, there was no admittance of guilt in that. He just said you ought to be scared too, this and that. But at the same time, it's like, if I had a kid and somebody accused me of breaking my kid's arm and I didn't do it, I'd be like exploding out of my skin telling you, no, I did not break my kid's arm. I don't think the NFL did a very thorough job on this case. It took a long time, and for them to arrive at a 0-game suspension is pretty sad. I can't say I'm surprised, like I said, but I feel like they should have done more interviewing with Tyreek Hill, the child, the fiance. They should have been involved with the city of Kansas City and the state of Missouri with their child protection services. They should have had a lot of different people on this, and based off the ruling that Roger Goodell handed out, I don't think that they were. So I think they really dropped the ball. But at the same time, when you use one piece of evidence like that as your sole supporting piece to decide a case, and he doesn't admit to anything, it's hard to really, come to a verdict, I guess, that involves a suspension or any kind of guilt.
Yeah, see, we've seen this kind of thing happen before with Adrian Peterson, where there was the allegations that he had abused his kid, and it was almost immediate that the NFL just stepped in. It was like right after, I can't remember if it was right before the first game or right after the first game. They just stepped in and they're like, nope, done for the season. Immediate suspension, shut him down. So I'm surprised that they didn't take the similar stance to that, because whenever they did do that, a lot of people applauded that. And we're talking about the difference between him using a switch on his child compared to just breaking his arm and then threatening the mother. Obviously, neither one of those two things are good, but you have physical evidence with the Tyreek Hill circumstance there. And then you want to get Tom Brady 4 games basically because somebody said that he told me to deflate the footballs. That's pretty similar to the kid actually accusing Tyreek Hill of bodily harm. So you're basing 2 arguments there. Both are kind of off of hearsay arguments with somebody reporting something, and then you have physical evidence on top of that, and you give Tom Brady 4 games, and you just immediately expect that he was the guy that did it. Kind of weird to me, because I feel like those 2 cases were, they're not similar in the fact that what you did there, one is obviously much worse than the other, but the amount of evidence that was there to support their claim was pretty similar. That it was both kind of hearsay arguments where one person said this, and we have the evidence to back it up. So I don't get it. I'm not surprised that the NFL did this. It's just definitely a terrible look. So we'll kind of switch gears here and talk about Melvin Gordon. Says that he will be sitting out the season if he does not have a contract by the beginning of the season. What do you guys think the Chargers should do?
I would definitely not pay him because, one, he has knee issues already, and two, yes, he puts up good numbers, but he also gets the ball a lot in the games. A ton. He's a fantasy monster because he gets the ball 30 times a game, not because he's super efficient with the carries. They already have Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson. Those two together make up one Melvin Gordon, but as long as you have both pieces to the whole, I don't think you need the whole.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys who falls on the thought of, you don't really need to pay running backs. You can have a carousel.
Unless you're the Dallas Cowboys.
You can have a carousel of 2, 3, 4 running backs and kind of figure it out, make things work situationally. With Melvin Gordon, he's done everything right. He's not really caused you any trouble. He's even catching passes now, which he did not do that in college. You were right. The yards per carry isn't super great. He's got guys like Austin Eckler behind him. I think if you can find a common ground on, salary and years that works for, not only Melvin Gordon but also the franchise, I'm not against him getting a contract. I'm not going to do what the Rams did and shell out huge money just to find out a guy has arthritis in his knees. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm not against paying him a fair contract as long as we can find that common ground. If there's no common ground, then I'll just look to trade him. I'm going to get return on my capital or my investment for him. Move on. The Patriots have made a dynasty out of moving off guys too early. I think that you just follow that same suit.
I absolutely 100% agree with you. If you can't get a deal done at a fair wage for what the Chargers need to help build their organization, just move on. I mean, you have to. Somebody will give you a third rounder for a year rental of Melvin Gordon.
It'll be the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles, they
would love to get running backs, man.
They'll give a third rounder for any running back in the NFL. So I actually think that they could find some middle ground here. Don't give him the type of money that you see like Todd Gurley getting, but you give him a good contract for maybe the next 3 years because the running back shelf life's so small. But you can't overpay for the guy, especially whenever you're going to be looking to go out and get another quarterback soon because Phillip Rivers obviously isn't getting any younger. So I don't think that they should go out and pay him. Like Leighton said, they have Justin Jackson, they have Austin Eckler, two guys who make up one whole Melvin Gordon. Just kind of plays into the scheme things where you have to run running back off the field to bring in another, so it's kind of obvious what you're doing. But that's not a problem in the NFL. The Patriots have made it work. Other teams have made it work. I don't think that you should shell out the kind of money that Melvin Gordon's probably going to be expecting. But if they do not get a deal done, let's say Melvin Gordon sits out the whole year, will the Chargers be a winning team if they do not get this deal done?
I think they're a winning team gets done. I don't think that could be too much worse, maybe a game worse if that even don't get this deal done. Because like we said already, Melvin Gordon is very good. He's on the field. You got to prepare for the pass and the run. Dawson Jackson and Austin Eckler do get that way a little bit, but not enough to where they will often be ineffective.
Yeah, you're not just going to throw one of those guys out there not named Melvin Gordon and the defense be like, hey, we know what we're doing now. We fucking got him. That's not going to happen. So you don't win and lose games based on running backs, in my opinion. I think they're going to be fine without him.
To bolster your argument there that you do not win and lose games based off of your running back, last year, the Los Angeles Chargers, I almost did it again, were 8-4 whenever Melvin Gordon played in football games. Whenever Melvin Gordon did not play in football games, they were 4-0. So they were undefeated without him. It's not like it's going to move the needle a ton. I don't see where Melvin Gordon's getting at with this. I mean, obviously, everybody does want to get paid, but if he sits out a year, I don't think it's going to do him any justice, kind of similar to the Le'Veon Bell situation. It's going to be interesting to see how things play out, though.
What do you guys think about Zeke? What if he sits out?
The Cowboys are in trouble if he sits out.
Also with Zeke, this is a fucking terrible time to be asking for more money. Like, just got arrested a month ago.
Oh yeah, no, he's in the news more than anybody.
Like, he has 2 years left on his contract, too. This is the worst time I've ever heard of any NFL player demanding more money.
He should have just went a full season of keeping his nose clean, just playing football, and then the next year, once he's shown the capabilities of being able to stay out of trouble, not going to music festivals and pushing people over, then come out and ask for more money.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard. He's talented, but at the same time, it's hard for me to invest a whole lot of money in you. For one, because you're a running back, like we've been talking about. But two, you get in trouble all the time. You know, I don't. You might not play a whole season again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. They said horrible, impeccably awful time to demand money from somebody.
Yes, I absolutely agree. He gets the Read the Room award of the week. So, guys, it is time for a segment that was made famous on the Hump Day Hoops Hysteria. It is called Fletch on the Fly. Each week, Leighton C. comes in with 3 questions for Fletcher. Fletcher has no time to prepare for these. It is basically off the top of Fletcher's head. Leighton C., let's hear him.
So Jake handed out earlier in the intro that we're going to talk about fantasy football today. And Fletcher has written pretty good fantasy football calls in his life. So, these are only going to be fantasy-related questions. Question number 1. Fletcher, who is the one player you cannot be paid to draft this season?
Who's the one player I could not be paid to draft?
And it's in the top, 3 rounds. There's no way of touching this guy.
In the top 3 rounds. You know what? I'm probably going to... It might be like a hot take-ish kind of thing, but I don't think I can touch Aaron Rodgers early. The guy's getting older. He's 35. He's playing in a tough-ass division. And the thing is, they had a lot of first-round picks early this year, spend it all on defense. I don't really buy their offense. I think he'll make a big play and he'll make some highlights, but consistently being that that 20 to 22 point a game guy that you expect for fantasy maybe a year or two ago, I just don't think he's it anymore. I don't think he's going to be it moving forward. So that's one guy I definitely would avoid.
It's a slight cop-out picking a quarterback there, but we'll let that slide.
No, I like it because people still draft him ridiculously high.
He got drafted in the second round in our draft last year, and
Was that by you, Drake?
Yes, it was, but it's also a keeper league, and all I needed was a
Oh,
quarterback.
anyway, all we know now is it's the second round. That's all we need to hear.
Won the league.
Okay.
Oh, that was funny.
Alright, Fletcher, who will be this year's top fantasy player outside quarterbacks?
Outside quarterback, who's going to be the top fantasy earner? He had a whole year to rest, didn't do anything. He's going to come into a new offense. He's going to be a vocal point. He's got an offensive-minded head coach. He's got a good quarterback. The line's improved a little bit. They've got some weapons on the outside. I think it's going to be Le'Veon Bell this year.
Ooh.
Really? Okay. Just that one coming.
Hey, he's got fresh tires out there, man. He's going to be fine.
Not going with Doug Gottlieb, but we'll get that in a little bit.
Okay.
And my last question. Fletcher, who are the players on this year ACL tear watch list?
I love this thing. You've actually predicted some of these before.
Yeah, it's hard to say, man. One guy I got on my ACL tear watch list is my own Leonard Fournette. Not feeling very good vibes from him coming into this year. ACL tear watch list, man, that's a tough one. I think Nick Chubb is going to grace the list this year. Sorry, Leighton. And then we should probably get one more guy. I think it could be. I think it could be maybe Alvin Kamara too. There's always a big time player, younger guy looking to make that step forward who hurts himself, and I think that one of those 3 guys could be on our ACL tear watch list, even tear their ACL.
You've actually called these before, so it's a laughing situation. But whenever, the first time you called one, I can't remember who it was. I can't remember who any of them were, but I definitely remember you putting 2 guys on your ACL tear watch list, and 2 of them tore their ACL. So,
Fletcher, tell the Dippers how you come up with this list.
Well, it's 110% pure, immeasurable intuition, so it's hard for me to really explain to you how I know it.
I love that.
How about that one week in fantasy where? What did I do? I think I sat. It was 2 or 3 years ago. I sat Doug Martin and I started Alfred Morris, and he wound up getting 10 yards and a touchdown against the Redskins.
Yeah, he got 2 garbage touchdowns.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Oh my God, that was funny. And I was playing Adam that week too. He was pissed about that. Oh shit.
So segues us perfect into fantasy season. It is officially here. So each week we will break down our top 5 players at each position, give our top value plays at each position, and then we're gonna talk about a guy that we have to roster that you can get late, and maybe even some guys that we're gonna steer clear of. So Leighton C., start us off. Who are your top 5 quarterbacks for this season?
So go 5 to 1 or 1 to 5.
Go 5 to 1.
5 to 1. Number 5, and in my opinion, But at the end of the top 4, it's the big old canyon. A lot of guys for this pick by Matt Ryan. I don't want to pick Baker Mayfield here, but I'm not going to do that just yet. Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, kind of really going to be better to a good season. Number 4, Aaron Rodgers, expecting a big bounce back from a very frustrating year last year. Hopefully Matt LaFleur a bit better play call than Mike McCarthy did. Number 3, got Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is going to look ugly a whole lot of times in games. But he's going to be really ugly and get you 25 fantasy points while doing it. Number 2, I have Andrew Luck. Last lyrics of the season, last year, this is the best quarterback in the NFL. I think he'll do it for all 16 this week. And number 1, Patrick Mahomes. He's not losing really anything to Tammy Watkins.
Fletcher, what do you have for us? Top 5 quarterbacks.
So I got a little different order of guys in my list. I'm just going to start at 5. At 5, I actually have Andrew Luck. I think the Jaguars and the Texans have tough defenses, but they have Frank Reich. They got a lot of pieces around Andrew Luck. I really like the team, and the thing is, he will get the ball out fast. So, even when he has to face that pressure, he'll get the ball out fast. He'll put it down the field as quickly as possible, and that also helps him avoid injury. So I've got Andrew Luck at 5. Actually, at number 4, I have Patrick Mahomes. I think people sometimes fall to be, prisoner of their moment kind of thing. I don't think he's going to sit here and just throw for 50 touchdowns every year he's in the NFL. You got to expect some regression. I don't think that he's going to fall off a cliff by any means. He's still going to be a top-tier quarterback. But to think that he's going to come out and light the world on fire again, they've got more tape on him. They've got a maybe a better understanding of how to defend him. So that's 5 and 4 for me. At number 3, I have Drew Brees. I think they have the 22nd toughest schedule in the NFL. So they've got a pretty favorable schedule. Sean Payton, the Dome, Drew Brees. Michael Thomas might be the best receiver in football this year. They've got Alvin Kamara. They've got quite a bit there that I really like. At number 2, probably a bit of surprise to you guys, I have Tom Brady. They have the tie for the second weakest schedule in the NFL. The only team that has a weaker schedule than them is the Washington Redskins. They went out and drafted, a wide receiver in the first round. They have Demaryius Thomas. They've got, quite a bit out there still, even though they lost Gronk to replace him. And then my very top quarterback for this year is going to be Russell Wilson, 25th strength of schedule, bottom tier of the NFL. And the thing is, with Russell Wilson, he doesn't fuck up. He doesn't really fumble the ball. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. Even when he scrambles, he gets out of bounds early, doesn't make the big hits, doesn't get hurt. And like that, he's just going to get rushing yards too. So for all those reasons right there, Russell Wilson's got to be my top fantasy QB this year, I think.
Yeah, I definitely struggled with the top 3. I think they're pretty interchangeable. I definitely like the Russell Wilson pick there, though, at number 1. I'll go ahead and start off number 5 for Cam Newton. He was number 6 in points last year as far as quarterbacks go until he got a little banged up. He was actually really polished as a passer. Last year he had 100 quarterback rating, 67% completion percentage through the first 8 weeks. Then he gets banged up in the Steelers game. Throws 9 touchdowns, 9 interceptions over the last 6 weeks. I don't think that it was a regression of him as a passer because we've seen him as a bad passer basically every year leading up to this one. And he looked really good to start off the season. So as long as he stays healthy, I think he's going to be a top 5 quarterback yet again. And even with the bad last 6 weeks of the football season, 9 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, he still finished with the second best passer rating of his career. So that just says how good he was those first 8 games. Plus, you look at his receiving core. He finally has some legitimate players around him. DJ Moore, I know Torrey Smith's getting older, but he's there. Chris Hogan, Curtis Samuel, fast guys who get open in the field. Number 4, not the sexiest pick, but it's Matt Ryan. Guys, he was the number 2 fantasy quarterback last year, and a lot of people kind of didn't even realize that. He was number 2 in 2016. Calvin Ridley takes a huge step forward from his 2019 season, and all wide receivers are bad as rookies. Calvin Ridley was an exception last year. I think he's going to be dangerous. He had 4,900 yards last year, 35 touchdowns. He's had 4,500 yards in 6 of the last 7 seasons. And this year, something to look out for, which could honestly help Matt Ryan take a next step forward this year. Julio Jones, it took him 53 catches and 800 yards to get a touchdown. So if that well breaks early, Matt Ryan could be in for a huge season, and I think he should be a top 4 quarterback this year. Number 3, I have Fletcher's guy, Russell Wilson. He was the 9th highest fantasy scoring quarterback last year, 3rd in touchdowns. So if you look at the amount of touchdowns that he had, which he was 3rd in the NFL, he didn't throw the ball a whole lot. You look at another team that never throws the ball, the Cowboys. Dak Prescott actually threw the football 99 more times than Russell Wilson last year. Out of quarterbacks to start 16 games last year, Russell Wilson had 78 fewer attempts than number 2 on the list. So this guy was playing in a run heavy set last year. Out of all the quarterbacks that played 16 games last year, he threw 78 fewer passes than the guy right above him. I absolutely love him this year. Guys, if you equate his numbers from last year, he threw 427 passes. If you just give him 500 attempts, which he had 553 last year, he would have had 41 touchdowns. And last year was his only season without a rushing touchdown throughout the regular season. I think that's going to change and honestly inflate his value there. Number 2, Patrick Mahomes, most points per game ever in fantasy history by a quarterback. Better than the 2013 Peyton Manning. I know that he shouldn't have a huge regression, but the guy I have at number 1, I think is going to flirt with the kind of numbers that we saw out of Patrick Mahomes this last year, and that's Andrew Luck. The guy took a full year off of football. He couldn't even throw the Hail Mary in like week 2, and he rattled off for 4,500 yards, 39 touchdowns. Knocked down the interceptions a little bit. This guy is going to be the number 1 fantasy quarterback this year. And you look at the upgrade that he has in pass catchers this year. Guys, Jack Doyle was one of his favorite targets until Jack Doyle got hurt, and he gets Jack Doyle back. Obviously, Eric Ebron's still there. You have Deion Kane, Paris Campbell, Devin Funchess, T.Y. Hilton, all going to be healthy this year. At the end of the season, you even saw Andrew Luck's numbers go down a little bit because every time he'd throw the ball to T.Y. Hilton, who was playing obviously injured, which most guys would sit out for the rest of the season, T.Y. Hilton just catch the ball and lay down. Not a knock against him. It's what he had to do, and it's obviously going to hurt Andrew Luck's numbers at the end of the season. I think he's going to flirt with 5,000 yards, and he's going to flirt with 40 touchdowns. I have Andrew Luck as the number 1 quarterback option this year. So, guys, top fantasy quarterbacks for value. We're looking at guys that, you're going to be able to get after that 8th round, guys that you can get late that are going to be really good options to start week in, week out. Wait and see. Who do you have for me?
My top value quarterback this year is Jameis Winston. This is the year for him to prove if he's worth money or not. Last season, in games that he started and finished, he basically had 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, all those games. Unfortunately, Dirk Dumbshit Cutter just wanted to keep throwing out Ryan Fitzmagic out there week after week until magic was all gone. Then he changed. We didn't really allow James to get into a little rhythm in the offense in that season. And this round signed, got Bruce Arians as the head coach. Bruce Arians, in my opinion, is top 3 head coaches in all football. Absolute offensive mastermind. I think he did great things with Jameis Winston this season. I'm not really shocked at all if Jameis is a top 5 quarterback at the end of 2019 season.
I actually love that. A little side note on Jameis Winston, just to build on that. Guys, Leighton talked about the success of Bruce Arians. 2008, 9 coaching seasons ago for Bruce Arians, was the last time that his offense was outside of the top half of the league in passing yards, and he had Ryan Lindley, Drew Stanton starting probably 15 games total for him in those seasons with the Cardinals. Fletcher, who is one of your top fantasy bargains? If you have more, throw them at us.
Man, I got quite a few, but I'll just hit on a couple here. I wanted to put Jameis Winston on there, and getting Bruce Arians was a big part of that. And I think that he is going to have a good year. I looked at some fantasy projections, and they have him really high, kind of alarmingly high. I'm not going to have him that high, but I think that's definitely a good pick. I got some younger guys who I was looking at. Sam Darnold, they are tied with the Patriots for the second weakest, schedule in the NFL this year. They got a bunch of weapons. They got Le'Veon Bell. I mean, that's like having a freaking Ferrari added to your garage. You got an offensive coach in, Adam Gase. He might even be a robot based on that one, press conference he had. But I think Sam Darnold could really turn some heads this year. I think a second year into the NFL, getting accustomed to the speed, the rhythm of the game, I think that could be huge for Sam Darnold. Another guy I have is Jimmy Garoppolo. He was hurt last year. I think everybody just kind of forgot about him. I think he's going to slip and fall. He did some, really impressive things with the 49ers in a handful of games. He looked good with the New England Patriots. You can put an asterisk next to that if you want to. But I think Jimmy G's a guy who could fall. but kind of resurrect himself this year. And another guy I think is perhaps Carson Wentz. Another guy, real weak strength of schedule. He's got more weapons around him on offense. He's got an offensive-minded head coach, a really smart coach. If he stays healthy, I think he could have another good year as well. So those are three guys that I'm kind of looking at as far as value pick that you could get later on.
To build on the Sam Darnold argument, I actually really like him a lot. I think it was over the last 5 or 6 weeks of the NFL season last year, he was the top-rated quarterback in Power Football Focus. Pro Football Focus. So that's actually pretty wild to think about as a rookie. So I have 3 bargains here. Obviously, Jameis Winston. Leighton basically talked him to death on that. The guy's going to be very good this year. I have Mitch Trubisky. Injured in the Minnesota game. Coming into that game, he was the number 7 quarterback in fantasy. Week 1 of this NFL season will be the 40th time that he started a game since high school, so the guy is going to continue to get better as this season progresses as long as he is healthy. And you look at his first few weeks last year, obviously the guy was a fantasy monster. Next up, I have Dak Prescott. And I'm going to go on record to say that Dak Prescott is just as good as he's been since his rookie year. I've seen really no progression out of Dak Prescott. But the difference is, since they got Amari Cooper, those last 9 games with Amari Cooper, Dak Prescott was the number 9 quarterback in points per game. And if you think about a quarterback-wide receiver relationship, you don't think it's going to get any worse. Having a full offseason to prepare, a full offseason to get the timing down. So I think Dak Prescott could actually be in the makings to have a good season. Are there any quarterbacks that you guys might see at the top of other people's lists that you're going to try to steer clear of this season?
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers. I know Aaron Rodgers is going to get picked early, and I'm sure he's going to have some games where he does really well, and I think he's probably going to have a pretty good season. But if you think he's going to be a top 3, top 5 quarterback, I just don't see it. And so that's one guy I'm not too big on.
Yeah, one guy I've seen a lot of people's top 12, top 10s even is Kyler Murray. And I'm not going to be so clear of him, but I can guarantee I don't have him on any team of mine. He's going to go way too high for my liking.
Yeah, I actually agree with both of those wholeheartedly. One of them that I have on here is Ben Roethlisberger. Too streaky for me. He had 3 weeks last year that inflated his numbers of games over 29 points plus. He had fewer than 20 in 7 of those weeks, though. He's not going to get any better without Antonio Brown. I have Jared Goff. So listen to these stats on Jared Goff that I got today. Week 13 through the Super Bowl, Todd Gurley had 67 touches, okay? 7 games, 67 touches. He had to miss a couple in there. But still, that is not a lot of touches. First 12 games, he had 279 touches. They've said that he has arthritis in his knees, and it's not going to be anything that is going to get better. In those first 12 games, where Todd Gurley was being rode like a rented mule, Jared Goff was the number 5 quarterback in fantasy. Okay, he was 10 points, in fact, to be away from being the number 2 quarterback in fantasy. Then, in the last 5 games, once Todd Gurley couldn't just run the rock into the dirt, he averaged 11.9 points per game as a quarterback. That's lower than Ryan Tannehill, Case Keenum, and Nick Mullins. In the playoffs last year, whenever Todd Gurley was obviously not the same Todd Gurley we saw in the first 12 weeks, he averaged 237 passing yards, which is not good in the NFL, 1 touchdown in 3 playoff games, 2 interceptions. He averaged 35 passes per game, so he was obviously getting opportunities, 55% completion percentage. And don't get bit buying into Josh Allen. That's all I'm going to say.
I love Josh Allen.
So, guys, we have the interview that we had promised at the beginning of the show. It is Mike Roach. It works for 24/7 Sports. He covers the Texas Longhorns, guys. It is a very, very good interview, especially if you're a college football fan, Big 12 fan, Texas Longhorns fan. I hope you enjoy it. All right, Dippers, today we actually have a very special guest for you. He is a recruiting reporter for the Texas Longhorns with 24/7 Sports. Mike Roach, welcome to the kennel.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
So first up, have you ever been told that you look like Travis Kelce?
No.
You have not?
I've been told I look like a lot of people. Travis Kelce's never been one. But I think that's good. I think women consider him handsome. So, Yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah, I myself even consider Travis Kelce handsome. I know Lex had actually set up the interview for us, and first thing I said, "Are you sure that you didn't get Travis Kelce?"
Well, if I was in the Kelce zone, I'd be his shorter, less athletic brother.
the journalist version, Travis Kelce.
I think I've been called Jason Kelce before, but never Travis.
Oh, wow. They do look alike, though, so makes sense.
Yeah.
So, first up, explain to the Dippers what exactly you do covering Texas recruiting.
Mainly, I'm the recruiting editor for Horns 24/7, part of the 24/7 network that covers Texas. So I handle all recruiting for football for Texas, and that's mainly covering about 200 kids and all the recruiting efforts for Texas, every event they do, every big event that's put on within the state of Texas, and even outside of its borders. I'll see. It involves a lot of time on the road. I'll see probably 50 football games this fall in high school. I saw nearly 40 schools in about 4 weeks during the spring. So, it's a busy life, but pretty fun just to get to hang around high school football all day and kind of see these athletes grow up. And I think it gives you a real rewarding part of it, because when these kids get to Saturdays in the fall, them real well. Caden Stearns was one of my favorite kids of all time. I'm still extremely close to him and his family. And, just be able to sit on my couch on a Saturday, watch Texas, and every time Caden makes a play, my wife goes crazy because she spent all this time listening to me talk to Caden on the phone. That's just the most rewarding part about it.
That's awesome, actually. So how can people find your content? What's the best, easiest way for people to find some of the stuff that you've written?
The best way is to go to horns247.com, of course. You can subscribe there and read. We've got lots of great stuff, not just what I do with recruiting, but we've also got some great team stuff from our team there that covers the actual team. We have a little baseball coverage, a little basketball coverage, a little bit of everything. You can also follow me on Twitter at MikeRoach247.
Okay, so you seem to cover a lot of the Dallas area, a place where over the last few previous seasons, in-state competition like A&M, TCU, and even out-of-state schools would be able to kind of dip in and steal recruits from Texas. Have you noticed a power shift with Herman being able to keep these guys in-state and bring them to Austin?
Yeah, it's kind of been a storyline of this year. So I'm a Dallas guy. I was born and raised in Irving. And, right in the shadows of Dallas, and I live here now with my wife. And so I'm very familiar with the dynamics of DFW football. And since Tom Herman and his staff got to Texas, they really struggled to bring guys in from this area. But over the last year or so, they've really kind of made a turnaround there. And, it was huge to land Bunkyville quarterback Jaquindon Jackson this summer. I mean, that was kind of the key to unlocking Dallas, because, Jaquindon plays in the banner program in Dallas. He is the most famous high school football player in Dallas right now. Everybody knows who he is, and to get him and to get him on board early, I think really opened some eyes in this area for Texas, and you're starting to see him turn things around, especially adding Prince Dorba from Highland Park and Quay Davis from Skyline. I mean, those are big names from big time Dallas programs. So yeah, it's something that's definitely turning around.
Yeah. So you said Dallas area. Actually, I went to Dallas, and I went to visit my friend who's also on the show whenever he was living in Dallas. And as soon as I got off the plane, he said, "Dude, I have to show you something." And he took me to the Katy, Texas football field. What is it like watching a game in there? It looks just like a college football field.
Are you sure it was Katy? Because Katy's in the Houston area. He may have taken you to Allen.
Allen is. That's it. Allen's it.
Allen Stadium, yes, could rival a college football stadium. It is an insane stadium. I've only seen 2 games there, but it's an incredible environment. The crazy thing is, I think Prosper, which is in that area, is opening a new stadium this year that rivals it. McKinney, which is in that area. So we're going to have 3 or 4 stadiums in that area of Dallas and North Dallas that are as nice as Allen Stadium.
That's unreal.
This year. So yeah, the facilities here are just getting out of control. I know people will complain and say throw that money towards education. I don't think they understand the amount of money that football brings in for the school, and just part of what makes Texas high school football special. And so, I think that, for me, I really enjoy being able to go to places like that and see it. And I think that it adds to the atmosphere and kind of the mystique of the area.
No, absolutely right. Football is king in Texas, that's for sure. So Tom Herman now has back-to-back recruiting classes that are in the top 5, both 2018 and 19. Coming from some of the players that you've actually gotten to talk to, build relationships with, what have really been the key points that Herman and his staff have got to sell these guys on?
A big part of it is their culture and what they can do for you on the field, kind of rebuilding the program into what it once was and taking those steps. And I think you've seen that over the 2 years he's been here. Starting with an up and down season in his first year, but it ended with a bowl win over Missouri, and then of course a 10-win season last year where he beat USC, Oklahoma, and Georgia all in the same year. I mean, that's kind of positive steps towards the rebuild. They're pitching pro development, which has been a thing at Texas. It's been a drought basically since Matt Brown left, and I think that Herman and his coaching staff are kind of reaping some of the bad things about it right now because a lot of their guys aren't going pro yet, but they've only been there for 2 years, so you can't really hang pro development on them right now. And then the other big thing is life after football. They've got a pretty comprehensive program called Texas Forever, I think, and it basically hooks them up with the players up with internships and allows them to sit down and hear from like CEOs of Fortune 500 companies and talk about what they want to do after football and give them great connections for that life when they go into the professional world.
That's awesome. Texas seems to do a better job at that than most people, kind of setting them up for their life. Even just most recently, whenever they brought in just Vince Young.
I mean, when you're Vince Young, you can pretty much have a job anywhere in the state of Texas, provided you stay out of legal trouble and can keep it. But
right,
unfortunately, that didn't happen for him. But I think that they take care of their players in a way that, and I think a lot of schools would do the same. I know a lot of other schools have programs that are similar, but Texas for sure likes to take care of their former players and make sure that they're set up for life after.
Right. So you actually had just gotten to cover the Elite 11 camp, which we've actually had some guys on that got to work as counselors there. Big 12 media days, both big events in the college football landscape. What were those couple of weeks like for you? How were you able to manage all of that?
Oh, it's fun for me. It's kind of so in the spring, once spring football starts in April, I'm on the road every day, for about a month, where I'm seeing multiple schools a day. I'm exhausted. I'm barely sleeping. And then when school gets out, I really don't have much to do. I try to find some recruiting stuff around the area to go to, some camps and things like that. But for the most part, by the time we get to Elite 11, I've been sitting at home for a couple weeks and ready to get out and do something. So, having the opening in Elite 11 in Dallas is great for me because it allows you to be at home and be able to commute back and forth. And it's one of my favorite events of the year just because you get to see so many great kids in one setting. And then, I'm not typically at Big 12 Media Days, but, I was asked this year if I wanted to come out and help, and I got to go out there and ask some recruiting questions to coaches and players. And so it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And, to me, when it's consecutive weeks where I've got nothing going on and I'm just sitting at home scrounging for something to do, those are the worst to me. I would much rather have a full plate every day.
Right. So at the Big 12 Media Days, obviously, there's a ton of great personalities in the Big 12. Just from a coaching standpoint, you have Mike Gundy, Les Miles, Matt Rule, and Gary Patterson, just to name the few guys that would be at the Big 12 Media Days. Getting to see these guys, ask them questions, and get a behind-the-scenes kind of look at these coaches. Who's going to be the hardest coach for you to root against this upcoming season?
I really like a lot of the Big 12 coaches. I mean, I know I would get killed on my board for saying this, but I think Lincoln Riley's a phenomenal coach.
We can edit that out for you.
I got no problem saying that. I think he's fantastic at what he does. Obviously, there's a reason he has success. Gary Patterson has been so successful at what he's done for a while. Matt Rule, I think, came into a really tough situation and has done the absolute best he can to get Baylor out of what they were in following the Art Briles thing. But what I really like besides Matt Campbell at Iowa State, who I think may be the best football coach in the whole conference, just pure football coach. And then Matt Wells, the new Texas Tech head coach, is one who really impressed me in media days. Kind of my first time hearing from him. And, I think that Lubbock is it's an extremely interesting and unique place to recruit to. And there are a lot of challenges that lie within getting kids to come out to West Texas and play big-time college football. Mike Leach did it better than anyone, but I think that Matt Wells right now sounds like he has a plan. Sounds like he knows what he's doing, and I'm really interested to see if it's going to work out.
Were you covering Texas whenever Mike Leach was there?
No, I can't remember the year Leach was fired, but I wasn't covering it yet. No, not at that point.
That was a wild set of events. So Texas Longhorns, 2019. They're coming off this big season, 10 wins. Fell just short of winning the Big 12 title. Won the Sugar Bowl against Georgia last year. What does it seem to be the expectations set by Texas for themselves coming into this season?
The expectation of Texas should, at a minimum, be to win the conference every year in and year out. When you're Texas, you have the amount of history the amount of money that program has, and the ability to recruit the way they do. You shouldn't. The last few years at Texas should have been an aberration. They shouldn't be something that's the norm. And so I think that at the very least, their expectation is to win the conference. They played for it last year against Oklahoma, and came up short in that one. But I think that they should be back in contention for it this year. And then past that, I think that they're getting to a point, especially if they can kind of build on what they did last year, where we're going to start talking about national title expectations for Texas and playoff expectations. And it's difficult because I do think Texas is in a much better spot than they have been in years from a talent standpoint, from a depth standpoint. And I think that they could be a team that reaches the playoffs, but I look at their roster versus an Alabama or Clemson, and it's just it's a completely different animal. So I think there's still a few years maybe from competing for that. But if they continue to build on it, that's going to be the expectation, fair or unfair.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with that. What player have you gotten to cover? Kind of build a relationship, that the average college football fan might not necessarily know just yet, that you see being a key contributor to the success of the Texas Longhorns this season?
That's a good question. I'm going to say it's hard because I live in an echo chamber where I know these kids since they're in 10th grade, so I feel like everyone knows them. I feel like saying Caden Stearns. He was a freshman All-American. Everyone would know Caden Stearns. Even B.J. Foster would probably be a guy I would point to. I think he's going to be a massive weapon for Texas this year on defense. But, again, I think he's a name people know. I'll go with Jalen Green, who's going to get a shot to start at corner this year for Texas. One of the most impressive cornerback prospects I've ever seen at the high school level. And really a guy that I think Texas can depend on to step up big where they have a need to come in at corner and kind of solidify that defense, where they lost Chris Boyd and Devontae Davis last year.
Yeah, actually, you hit on it there with the secondary, really, for Texas. Texas seems to be the anomaly of the Big 12 Conference where everybody's going for these high-powered offensive systems, which obviously Tom Herman knows quite well himself. They're recruiting very, very good on the defensive side of the ball, especially in the secondary.
Yeah, I think that they know that to get to the national championship level, you have to play defense. And having Oklahoma's offense is great. And I think Oklahoma's shown you just about that you're maxed out because you go up against a Clemson or an Alabama in the playoffs with that offense. And you can put up some numbers, but you're probably not going to win every time. And I also think that in the Big 12, you've got to find the market inefficiency that allows you an edge. And so if Oklahoma's going to play great offense, you've got to be able to play great defense to match it. And so that's what they're doing. They're recruiting some absolute freaks in the secondary. Texas has kind of always had the reputation as DBU, and they're kind of bringing that back. So they've got some absolute track stars. There are kids coming up in that secondary that in a couple of years people are going to say, they signed a kid this year, Tyler Owens, who's a 6'3", 210-pound safety who ran
Oh, wow.
finished second in the state track meet and ran a 10.3 100. Runs a 4.3 40, broad jumps almost 12 feet. Like, he's one of the bigger freak athletes I've ever seen in my life. So I think that they're recruiting to a level athletically in the secondary that's not quite matched by anyone else.
Yeah, that's obviously impressive, and in the Big 12, you have to have that to win, it seems like. So, prediction time. Who will win the Big 12?
I picked on my ballot for Big 12 Media Days, I picked Oklahoma to win it. I'm just kind of in a point to where Oklahoma's won this thing basically half the years that the conference has been in play. So I'm kind of until somebody knocks them off, they're my pick to win it. I think we'll see Texas and Oklahoma back in the Big 12 championship again this year. And I think we'll get treated to another classic.
Yeah, I feel like, Texas and Oklahoma are kind of steps above everybody else at this point, especially with the recruiting classes that Herman's been bringing in and his ability to coach the players up as well. What's a team in the Big 12 that we should probably keep an eye on, might be a sneaky dark horse to make some noise in the conference?
I think there's a few. This is one of the more interesting years Big 12-wise to me. I mean, I think TCU's due for a bounce back, depending on what they can find with their quarterback play. I think that Iowa State kind of showed last year that they're a very dangerous opponent. And, Baylor actually intrigues me a little bit as a dark horse this year to maybe not win the conference, but I think you could see them finish third, which would be huge for Matt Rule in this stage of his development.
Yeah, no, it would definitely be big for Baylor, especially for Matt Rule. So I saw on your Twitter account, actually, in your Twitter bio, you have hashtag Bills Mafia. I have to ask, have you ever jumped through a table?
I never have, no.
You've not?
But no, I am a lifelong Bills fan. It's a long and sad story about how a kid from Irving, Texas, where the Dallas Cowboys play, grew up a Bills fan.
How did that happen?
It's long story short, when I was a kid, about 1990, I was 6 years old, and my dad didn't want me to be a Cowboys fan. He hated the Cowboys.
He's
but
a
he
smart
was a Packer
man.
fan. Yeah, he was a Packer fan. And he didn't want me to be a Packer fan because he thought that life would be too hard because the Packers were pretty awful at that point in time. And so he bought me one of those little, outfits you get for the kids with the helmet and everything, and it was a Bills one, a Jim Kelly Bills one. And, ever since that time, I've been a Bills fan. So I always laugh and tell him, you tried to get me to be a Bills fan to save me from being a Packer fan, and they've since won 2 Super Bowls in my lifetime. So I don't think that really worked out the way you intended it to.
Yeah, that's some pretty bad luck there. So Dippers, Mike Roach, 24/7 Sports, covering Texas football. Articles coming out almost every single day from this guy. Be sure to check him out at Mike Roach, 24/7 on Twitter. Mike, thanks a lot for coming on. I enjoyed our interview.
No problem. Anytime, guys.
All right. Again, thank you very much. Mike Roach, very good interview. Definitely enjoyed it. So, guys, Jim Harbaugh came out and said that Urban Meyer has been a successful coach, but controversy has followed him everywhere he has went. Do you guys think this is a fair assessment by Harbaugh or sour grapes by a man who's 0-4 versus Ohio State since coming to Michigan?
So I lean more towards sour grapes, and I think it's probably because, Urban Meyer's retired. Jim thought, finally, I'm going to get out of this shadow, or get the pro coaches of all time. And then, right off the bat, it acts about Urban Meyer. So, in his fiery, being pissed off and losing for the past 4 seasons, and just being asked about Urban Meyer, he just decided to let it pass in the dirt a little bit.
Yeah, could you imagine that interview? He's like, finally, Urban's gone. I'm the best coach in the Big Ten. Hey, Jim Harbaugh, how about Urban Meyer? Son of a bitch. He's probably really upset about that. But it's probably a little bit of sour grapes, probably a little bit of a fair assessment. He's an ultra-competitive guy. That's kind of why he got pushed out of the 49ers. I think he kind of just rubbed people the wrong way for too long. But, Urban Meyer, he did have issues at Ohio State. He had some issues at Florida, too. I think the issues at Ohio State kind of stemmed from Florida. But I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, he's probably salty about losing to him 0-4 like that, but at the same time, like, Urban Meyer has had some questionable, things happen on his coaching resume.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit of both. obviously, this record could realistically be 1-3 against Ohio State. There was the bad spot, I think it was 2 years ago, on fourth down, went in
that's
favor
right.
of Ohio State. And everybody comes out and says, like, oh, Urban Meyer just absolutely dominates Jim Harbaugh. Well, if you take that game out of there, then they're 1-3, realistically. But I think it's a mix of both. I don't think you can stand too hard on each side of the fence here. The guy had 31 players get arrested in 6 years at Florida, and then 31 players. I saw that stat the other day, and my mind was blown. That's an average of 5 guys a year. So that's pretty good. You would think that the Florida Gators were a farm system for the Bengals, and then he brings this crazy assistant that had problems at Florida. What do? Great idea. Bring him to Columbus with you. So the guy has had controversy.
Culture builder. That's what you call that, a culture builder.
Yes, and he kept the same culture everywhere he went, basically win at all costs, and we really don't care what you do off the field. I think it was a safe assessment by Jim Harbaugh, and I think he is obviously none too happy with Urban Meyer, because he is 0-4 at the end of the day. So guys, next up, we're going to play a little dart. Pew, 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 pew. We're playing darts, baby. So if you guys listen to the show often, it is a staple of the show. Each week we throw a dart at the dartboard, and that number represents something. Latency, what is the game for us today?
This week we're going to play the Hot Take Detective game. I know Brandon's not here, but I feel like Fletcher will be very good at this game, so we're going to bring it back.
Okay, so the way that this works, we'll throw a dart at a board. It'll land on a number. It'll give us a take, and we are going to say whether or not we agree with the take. Latency, your throw. And we have a 4.
A 4 is Patrick Mahomes, which set the record for NFL MVPs won.
Ooh.
Okay.
Well, what's the record?
5, Peyton Manning.
I thought it was 4, Peyton Manning.
I think it's 5.
Okay, we'll look this up.
Because he has 2 more than Tom Brady, and he has 3.
Okay. Oh, man. So, first thing...
Well, it's a good thing he's got one early like he did.
Yeah? So that he only needs, 4 more now to tie it? 60 Beckett? Oh, man.
Only 4 more MVPs.
Only 4 MVPs to go. I'm going to have to go no on that one. Just, it's football. He'll be injured this season. He'll be injured the rest of his career, maybe. 4 more. Winning 4 alone is an insane number. Winning 4 more than what he already has is just, no. Not going to happen.
I'm going to say no, just for one reason, and one reason only: greatness fatigue. I mean, LeBron's only won 4 MVPs. Brady's only won 3 MVPs. Hell, Jordan even only won 5. The year that they won 72 games, or I'm sorry, the final year that he won the championship in that second three-peat, Karl Malone won the MVP for the regular season that year. So it's just he's not going to do it this day and age. People find a reason to hate on him, and he won't get it. So.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. People are going to get tired of it, Patrick Mahomes is a hard guy to nitpick or complain about, but at the end of the day, people get tired of it. You look at the NBA, you could have given it to LeBron for basically 8 straight years, but they didn't do that. He only wins 4. I don't think it's going to happen just because of the greatness fatigue, and the only reason Peyton Manning was able to win 5 was because he was doing stuff that we had never seen before. Never seen before. We've seen it before out of a guy in Peyton Manning. We're going to see it with Patrick Mahomes, and it's basically just running back the same show. So I could see him ending up with 3, maybe 4, 5. I think that's just way too much, especially for a guy who has to create with his feet a lot and use a lot of athleticism. I don't know if he's going to be one of those quarterbacks that are going to hang around until they're 40.
Kobe Bryant only has 1 regular season MVP.
That is insane.
I know.
Greatness fatigue is a real thing, man. I agree with that wholeheartedly. So next up, Fletch, your throw. And we have an 18.
An 18 is, with all the talent dropping out of the national team, the United States will not win the FIBA tournament this year.
I'm going to say they will. In 2014... they had another FIBA World Cup championship like this, and they had guys on their roster like, Mason Plumlee, Kenneth Faried, guys like that. A lot of guys you typically wouldn't expect. They had Derrick Rose coming back off an injury. You didn't know what he would do. And they actually set the record for any Team USA in the history of Team USA, the men's basketball Team USA, for greatest margin of victory So, and that was, I mean, the fact that they won was pretty impressive, obviously, within the fact that, they were able to pull off that kind of margin of victory greater than the Dream Team, the '08 Olympics, the 2012 Olympics. I think it kind of spoke volumes. They've got Greg Popovich as their coach, too. So, I mean, they're going to be way better coached than anybody in that thing. They're going to have more talent still than anybody in that thing. So, I think they still will win it. And a lot of teams, we were talking about this earlier today with the NBA contracts. A lot of your other big name guys in the NBA who play for other countries, like Ben Simmons or I can't think of any other players off the top of my head, but they're not representing their countries in this World Championships either. So,
yeah, I think they will because the United States have more talent. Like Fletcher said, the good players, best players, honestly, from other countries aren't represent their countries either. So I still think USA will still have the most talent, and we will pull this out.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I do think we will still win. I don't know if it's going to be one of those astronomical just thrashings that we're used to seeing from Team USA. The only saving grace, if players wanted to represent their countries and the guys from USA didn't, I would think that we would be in very, very hot water. But for that simple fact that nobody's really going to have this elite NBA talent on their rosters, I still think that the NBA guys that are going to be there for Team USA are still better than the other teams. And you have Greg Popovich, greatest coach of all time, coaching your team. You're going to be put in spots to succeed. All right, now my throw. And we have an 8.
An 8. The Cleveland Browns will have the top offense in the NFL this upcoming season.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Guys, what do we know about Kitchens?
Nothing.
I mean, he's a first year head coach.
He coached a good team for like a few weeks. People think he's good.
He was the offensive coordinator of a good team for a few weeks. The guy is taking such a huge step as the head coach that it's not even funny. If you look at the team last year, he wasn't even the head coach. It was Greg. Oh, last name slipped.
Williams.
Greg Williams. He was the head coach for a few weeks there at the end. I mean, I'm not certain that Baker Mayfield's going to be a great quarterback. I think that the play that I'm going to look at the most from Baker Mayfield just last year was the play that Terrell Suggs picked him off to end their season. Terrell Suggs, obviously a guy who's played in the NFL for a long time, watches a ton of tape, has seen these kind of players before, comes in, acts like he's going to blitz, knows what Baker's going to do because Baker's looking right down the barrel of the gun. He drops back, picks him off. So I think that now that they have some tape on Baker Mayfield, who wasn't coming in as the Browns starter at the beginning of the season, you're going to see a little bit of regression from Baker. I still think the offense is going to be fine, but to say that they're going to be the top offense, that is a huge step for Baker Mayfield and the rest of the Browns. They might be top 10. I would give you a chance to argue top 10.
The only thing they will be the top offense. I think they will be a top 10 offense. Just looking at Baker Mayfield the last year rookie season, going back into this season, I think another very good year. They got better players. They got Kareem Hunt came back after 8 weeks. I think this team could definitely be in the top. Will be in the top 10 for sure, but not number 1.
Yeah, it's always nice when you can bring a high character guy like Kareem Hunt back. So
yeah, that usually moves things in the right direction.
Guard, center guard, they have a good offensive line. Their tackles are pretty awful. Baker, he's been kind of divisive a little bit with, his comments towards the media about some of his teammates and stuff like that. Freddie Kitchens is unproven. I think they have 160 or 50 or $70 tied up in 2 wide receivers. I don't even know the direction that they plan to take this team in the next few years, because at some point you're going to have to start paying guys, but I don't think they're going to be the top offense this year. That's just wildly foolish and naive, in my opinion, to even have that thought. I think they could definitely be a top 10, top 15 offense, but, you got one ball and you got so many mouths to feed. OBJ could start throwing a fit at any time during the season. Hitchens, can he handle OBJ and Baker yelling at each other on the sidelines? You could have a T.O., Donovan McNabb kind of situation.
Yeah. Dude, I honestly think, I know Greg Williams has had his demons in the past, but I feel like he would have been the head coach to go forth with the Browns last year, just for the stern presence that he brings. Stern presence, you like it or not, he has it. Kind of odd. It's going to be weird to see how this team advances going into this season.
Why not Bruce Arians? Why not Mike McCarthy? Why not somebody who's been like, hey, I actually have coached a good NFL team and I can handle, a strong personality kind of quarterback.
Yeah, and Bruce Arians wanted to go there. He said he wanted to coach the Browns. They just said, now we got Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah, that was a layup, dude.
Yeah, that was an alley-oop. That was an alley-oop dunk, as Leighton would say.
See,
Yeah.
This is another time when money rules all, because now they have Baker and Kitchens. They can make so many ads for that now.
Yeah,
It's all about money.
it is all about money.
Money rules everything.
Yeah.
So, guys, it is time for a staple of the show. It is called The Shittiest Take of the Week. Each week we listen to a lot of sports radio, watch a lot of sports television, and we talk about what the worst take we heard of the week was. Leighton, see what do you got for us today?
Alluded to a little bit earlier, go from Doug Gottlieb about Le'Veon Bell. I'm not sure what sparked this. I came into a little
Dude,
late.
does anybody know what sparks any argument that Doug Gottlieb makes?
He is flush with shitty takes. I promise you that, though.
He's bad. But so I turned it on. He's talking about how he doesn't think Le'Veon Bell's going to be very good this season. He says, it's going to be hard for Le'Veon to play with new linemen who aren't expecting him to take all this time to get through the hole. And we shouldn't expect to see that speed and that burst. And then he went on a little bit. And then he got on this tangent about the burst. He was just like, and Le'Veon Bell, he never even had a burst. That's why it takes so long in the backfield to get through the hole to open. He can't burst through it. So, I don't even know where to start with this one. You just don't understand how running football works. You never watched football. You never watched Le'Veon Bell play football. To say that Le'Veon Bell never had a burst because he wanted to let the hole open up is I can't think of a good word for it. It's just stupid.
Barry
Stupid.
Sanders didn't have burst either, man.
was
He
not-
always stutter-stepped in the backfield.
Yeah.
That's one of the worst. That was the worst analysis of a player I think I've ever heard in my life.
That's absolutely
Le'Veon Bell
terrible.
has no burst.
I love
Never
that.
had a burst.
Never had it. Never had it.
That's
Fletcher, what
foolish.
do you have for us today?
Mine was actually a couple weeks ago, and it was when I was watching the Summer League. Do you guys know who Dan Dockich is?
Oh, dude, I have Dan Dockich too.
Okay.
All right, so we got a joint shit take. First ever.
I love
Dan
this.
Dockich. So the way they do it in the Summer League is great because they have one NBA guy and then they have one college guy calling the game together, and their skill sets and their knowledge mesh nicely. I like that, the way the ESPN does the
Unless
Summer
it's
League
Dan
like
Dockich.
that. But then Dan Dockich, he makes a point about, what even is a point guard anymore? Do we even have, true point guards in the league anymore? And I get it. I get his point that he's trying to, have resonate with the audience is that we're moving towards positionless basketball. I get that. But he starts taking it a little step too far. He goes, look at your two teams in the NBA Finals. He goes, who are their point guards? The Raptors, who do they start at point guard, And, Kyle Lowry, you can make a lot of jokes at him, but, people know who he is. He's been an all-star multiple times, makes it to the playoffs every year, and they had Fred VanVleet. So, it's pretty obvious that Kyle Lowry or Fred VanVleet are the point guards for, the Toronto Raptors. They just won a title and everything. And then he takes it even further, and he goes, the Warriors. Who's their point guard? Oh,
No.
I don't know. Steph Curry, the guy who fucking revolutionized the NBA the past 3 years? That fucking guy, maybe? So I was like, I fell out of my chair laughing at him, and then I couldn't believe he even said that. He was like, yeah, is Draymond Green the point guard? No, it's Steph Curry. It's Steph. So
That is awesome.
that's my shitty take, and I couldn't, dude. It blew my mind hearing that.
Dude, Steph Curry is probably the most well-known point guard in not even probably, the most well-known point guard in the NBA, maybe in NBA history.
Yes,
Realistically, he might be the most well-known point guard in NBA history. I'm going to go ahead and
So-
plant the flag in the sand that he is.
So here's the thing: in his mind, is he looking out there and he's like 6'3", Steph Curry? It's probably your small forward. Is that what's going through
Center,
his mind?
is you jump for the ball here?
Dan Dockich, we're not in the Big Ten anymore, buddy.
No, we're not. We're in the big leagues.
That's awesome. So I actually have Dan Dockich, but he kind of stepped. So you hear his thoughts on basketball, which is something that he's supposed to be very, very good at. Mine's actually a baseball take. So I was watching the basketball tournament, the TBT, just like we talked about earlier, and his son was actually coaching one of the teams. And one way or another, they ended up doing a little promo for the Nationals baseball game, and they talked about how Strasburg hit a home run and had 3 RBIs in the game prior, trying to pump up that game. Talking about Strasburg, Dan Dockich just goes, man, he's been a disappointment. And it's like, oh, time out, dude. The guy's career ERA is 3.18. He's been twice finishing in the top 10 in Cy Young voting. And yeah, he's only thrown 1,300 innings, but not too many guys get to throw 1,300 innings. You look at baseball players all the time that are highly touted in college that are disappointments. To say that Strasburg, the only thing that's derailed his career, and you just look at his numbers with a 3.18 ERA, is injuries. And to say that a guy is a disappointment just based off of injuries is nonsense. And you look to compare who's a similar pitcher that has a 3.18 ERA. Max Scherzer has a career 3.16. So the guy is not that far off of one of the best pitchers in our generation. Like, I started dying laughing whenever he said that, and as soon as Dan Dockich says, "Man, he's been a disappointment," the other guy immediately goes, "I don't know about that."
Yeah, so
Like, he didn't know what to say.
okay, so Chris Sale is the all-time leader in K per 9 with 11. Strikeouts per 9 with 11. Steven Strasburg has 10.6.
Wow,
So just behind the best of all time.
that is crazy.
That's a disappointment in my eyes.
That's a big disappointment. So we're going to go ahead and stay on the MLB with some MLB chatter here. So we're going to play a little game. It's called the MLB Hype Meter. I will list out an event that could mathematically happen, and we will rank 0 to 10 on the likeliness that this will happen. So guys, first one up. I'm going to name two different guys. We're going to give our rankings prior to the second guy being named. Both these guys are top 5 in all 3 Triple Crown stats: average, home run, and RBIs. Cody Bellinger wins the Triple Crown.
I'm going to go with a 2 because I don't think he'll lead the average. We talked about earlier this season how he had batting above 400. You said like 2 weeks ago he was batting, 270 since that point? Then the average will keep falling down. He might get home runs, he might get RBIs, but 2 I think that doesn't cut it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 0 on this. I mean, even if you're top 5, you still got 4 guys ahead of you. You got to jump, and the later the season goes on, the harder it's going to be to start jumping guys. So I'm gonna go 0. I don't think he gets it.
Yeah, I'm going 0 as well. I mean, since the All-Star break, he's been hitting 290. That's nothing to shake a stick at. But whenever you're talking about winning a Triple Crown, that's not very good. And if you look at what he's done since May 22nd, so it's a pretty large sample size, more than half the season. Cody Bellinger's only hit 268 since that point. So he had such a strong start to the season that his average is now falling down. I said that Cody Bellinger's average is going to fall below 300 before the end of the season, and that's where he will end. I'm going to stay on that take from what I've seen over the last few months. I'm giving him a 0 on this one. Next up. Top 5 in all 3 categories: average stats, home runs, and RBIs. Christian Yelich wins the Cy Young, or the Triple Crown.
This one I'm going to go higher. I'm going to go with a 5 because he is he leads in average, leads in home runs. He's only 9 back of RBIs. Josh Bell could just stop hitting in every single batter of gets on base because he knows he has an actual chance to be a Triple Crown winner.
I'm gonna go a little higher too. I'm gonna give him a 1.
Yes. That's what
I just here's like I said before, man. You got to really start like catching up with guys in different categories because you just can't be top 5 and then start jumping 4 through
average and home runs. He's only 9 back in RBIs.
Well, I mean, you can still get jumped in those too. Everybody else is playing also.
Good.
So
It's hard to do. I mean,
extremely hard to
really,
do.
at a 1, you're giving him a 10% chance to win. I have him at a 1.3, and I think that's gracious. Just because if you look at the percentages that we're going to equate this to, like, it is so hard to win a Triple Crown. And I feel like saying 1.3, I'm giving him very good odds on this. But you look at what he's done since the All-Star break. Guys, the All-Star break was only a week and a half ago, and we have this guy 7 extra base hits, 9 RBIs, 8 strikeouts. So the guy's putting the ball in play. He's getting opportunities. Leighton said that RBIs is the thing that he's going to have to catch up ground on. He has 9 RBIs and he has 4 home runs since the All-Star break. So if you look at it, nobody's getting on base in front of him, so it's making it harder for him to get the RBIs. If guys hit in front of him, Christian Yelich, I would raise the number up to maybe a 3, but right now I only have him at a 1.3. Still pretty low, but he has a prayer.
the NL Central is kind of garbage too. I can't really speak to the totality of the NL West, but the NL Central kind of sucks too. So maybe he can just beat up on some bad pitchers also.
Yeah, that's true. Well, they're all about average, so you don't get any freebies in there.
Yeah.
So, guys, I feel like we were just talking about this like a month and a half ago, how the Twins were putting the nail in the final coffin.
Bang.
The Indians turned a 10-game deficit into 2. What, on our hype meter, do we have the Indians winning the Central?
I'm going to go with a 4. I still think the Twins win the Central. I don't think the Indians, while they're playing very good baseball, the Twins have been playing just as good baseball. They've been losing more games. You look at the span of the past 2 months, Twins are still scoring a ton of runs. The pitching hasn't been there. If the pitching can bounce back, they could win this division by 5, 6, 7 games still.
I'm going to give the Indians a 7 out of 10, solely because they've won 7 out of their last 10 games. The Twins are 4-6 in their last 10. You look at trends. Trends matter. Later in the season, as you go, you want to get hot at the right time. I give them a 7, and I've seen the Indians do it.
I'm going 8.4. I like their chances a lot, way more than I like the Twins to be able to win this, just because you look at the last 30 games. Fletcher talked about trends. The Indians are 22-8 in their last 30 games. And, oh, by the way, Corey Kluber just threw off of a mound for the first time since the injury, and he just so happens to be a top 10 pitcher. You throw that right into the mix. I don't see their record getting any worse, especially if he comes back to the form that he was. Where you look at the Twins, the Twins have been fine. They've been keeping their head above water. They're above 500 team. They're scoring a lot of runs. I don't trust the pitching out of that team. And if you look at who has the most, elite talents on their team, I have to go with the Indians. Now that this thing's within 2 games, if Corey Kluber comes back, I think it's game, set, match. The Indians are going to win the Central, but I think this is something to watch out for. Leighton said the only question he had with the Twins was pitching. We're going to talk about it now. A guy who could be on the market, a pitcher, Madison Bumgarner, gets traded. 0 to 10 on your hype meter.
I'm going to go with an 8, because basically the Giants aren't going to be silent. They've already said it. I can't see them. They've been a very good man franchise for a long time now. I can't see them getting 0 to 10 back on the investment. I think Bumgarner will be traded. But I did read today that somebody close to the Giants thinks that he had no trade clause, a rare one in baseball. He could decline the trade, and he thinks that he would.
Wow.
Well, I'm going to give it a 6.5. Madison Bumgarner 3 days ago was quoted saying that, he cares deeply about the Giants and doesn't give a shit about being traded. But the thing is, it's not up to him except for the no trade clause, I guess. So if they can send him to the right place, whether it be New York or, maybe the Cubs or the Red Sox, a team that's actually has a chance at winning their division, doing well, making the playoffs, I could see him agreeing to do that. So even though he cares deeply about it, I'm sure he cares a little bit more about winning too if the franchise doesn't show as much interest in him. So I give it a 6.5.
I'm giving him a solid 5. It's my only whole number here, other than the 0 I gave Cody Bellinger winning the Triple Crown. And I'm giving him a 5 because this is really 50-50. Because it's going to take both of them working together to get him to the right spot. Somebody needs to snag him up, though. If the Twins were able to sneak in there and get him, that would be an absolute huge get for the Twins. A team that needs starting pitching, and a guy who we've seen in the past can basically throw a team on his back and run them throughout the playoffs. So I'm putting it at 50-50. I would like to see him traded. I love seeing Madison Bumgarner pitch in the postseason. I just hope that it is not in the NL. And realistically, you look at this Giants team, 3-4 weeks ago, you would have said, yeah, absolutely, Madison Bumgarner is going to get traded. Out of nowhere, they start playing well again. So if the organization gets ahead of this thing, they could trade him, but I'm putting it 50-50. So this has never happened in MLB history. The most 100-win teams in a season has been 3. What are the odds that we have 4 teams win 100 games? Right now, you have the Yankees, Dodgers, Astros all on pace for over 100. Twins and Braves are on pace for north of 95. What do you have it on the hype meter?
I'm going to go 5.1. Yankees, Dodgers, Astros all have 64 or more wins. Dodgers 67 wins. They're all going to get 100 wins unless catastrophic injuries happen to the pitching staff, starting lineup, all that. I don't think the Twins will get there, but the Braves have been hot as hell for the past 2 months. They started off the season, they were 4th in the division for about the first month. They've been actually fire for the past 2 or 3 months, I think they will hit 100 wins.
So, I mean, the Yankees, Dodgers, Astros, and Twins all have, an overall run differential for the season of over 100 runs, which is really impressive. And the Braves actually only have a total run differential of 51, which is like way lower than everybody else. Kind of blows my mind. I'm going to give this like a 4.5 that 4 teams do. I think the Yankees, Dodgers, and Astros are all legitimate threats to get over 100. They all have a shitload of talent. I just don't see it happening for the Braves or for the Twins, to be honest with you.
I think this one's really interesting. I'm putting it at a 3.3, which, in my opinion, is pretty decently high. I think the Dodgers and the Astros are the only 2 teams that I can lock into getting 100. You would think that the Yankees would be able to, but we've seen the Yankees in past kind of hit a bad stretch of baseball and kind of peter out. So I think they should still get 100. They're the only team that's on pace for it that I could see not getting it. The Braves, they created interesting discussion because, like Leighton said, outside of the first month of baseball, they've been absolutely on fire. And if they would have just even kept their heads above water for the first month, they would be on pace for it as well. I think the Braves will be a team that's going to get over 95, and they're going to run right into the mix of either, they might get 99, 98, 97. It's going to come down to the wire for them, and potentially they could get their 100th win on the last game of the season. So it is time for us to put our producer in the spotlight. Each week he goes out and he watches several different movies. And each week we have him on to review. So Leighton C., what do you have for us today?
This week, I'm going to talk about a movie that is very dear to many people's hearts. The Lion King.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
I've seen The Lion King. If you saw the first Lion King, you saw this one too, basically.
No, I haven't.
It's 30 minutes longer, but literally every single plot point is the same. They've added maybe 1 or 2 new songs to it, but the plot points are all the same.
Did you sing The Circle of Life out loud?
I don't know the words of the songs.
Oh, okay.
I watched The Lion King last week, on Tuesday or Wednesday before this one. First time I've seen it in at least 10 years.
Huh.
It's a bit of I saw it was The Lion King. But I very quickly figured out that what made the first one work is the fact that the animals' faces could show emotion. Having just a lion being able to do the voice of emotion just did not work. In the first one, they could smile and frown and laugh, all that stuff. This one looks like the cartoons got Botox.
Interesting.
Is it kind of like the lion from Narnia?
Yes, they're all like a lion from Narnia. They can't show emotion. None of the animals can show emotion because they're made real life animals. I don't know what else they want to do with these animals, but in the animation testing, somebody had to think, shit, let's go back on this thing real quick and try to make some kind of more mouth movement or something. Could be really intense moments of the show, and they just couldn't see the emotion. And I read an article where the voice actors were told to tone down the voice acting because it wouldn't look right with the animation because it couldn't show enough of the wide mouth of the emotion to make the cartoon work.
That's wild.
It's kind of like Bagheera from Jungle Book.
Yes, anything like that basically is the same thing.
Anything like that? Anything I can compare it to is probably the same thing?
Yes, Buster. any CGI animal, it's going to be the same issue.
Like Godzilla?
Interesting.
Doesn't talk and show emotion. But I don't know. The movie, it's just The Lion King.
You know what, Drake? You're right. Godzilla did have a lot of flat affect to that whole movie.
He really did.
Maybe King Kong both is bullshit.
Kind of a bummer.
Honestly, they both for the whole movie.
What would you give this rating-wise?
So, like I said, it's The Lion King. I'm going to give it a 2.4, I guess.
What do you give the first Lion King?
A 2.4, because it's the same movie.
Okay.
I was disappointed in this because, like Aladdin, like Dumbo, they've changed little things, updated stuff that wouldn't work anymore. Changed it a little bit. This one, it's not beat for beat, but it's really damn close. They even said the same, the entire first part of the movie, it's the same lines.
That's crazy.
At the beginning, they always say, I'd be like, shit, they said that the last time. And then I knew it was going to come next.
Easy way to cash in some money.
Yep.
Did the NFL make this by chance?
I fucking be surprised.
Anything
this
to
is
make
an
money?
absolute cash grab.
Yeah.
Absolute cash grab. But thing I learned, Donald Glover, excellent rapper, very poor singer. Did not even singing these songs.
That's funny.
But another thing about the movie, Timon and Pumbaa, the meerkat, and the warthog, they are terrifying in real life to look at.
Huh.
And nothing to do about it. Out of this movie, should have been scrapped from the beginning. It just was never going to work from that animated aspect.
But
Yeah,
you just
whatever.
gave it 2.4.
Because The Lion King. Like, it's
Okay.
definitely the first one.
So
Whenever
look
I
at my
watch-
face and I go, I'm sad. Does that work for you?
Yes.
Yes, everybody else that's listening to this saw that too.
Yes.
Yep.
Fletcher did not look sad. Just a little update.
It's probably Simba didn't look sad either. Oh no, my dad just got tossed into a stampede of wildebeest.
Was it Wildebeest?
Yeah.
That's a spoiler, Fletcher. You just spoiled the movie for everybody.
Well, don't worry. You watch the 1994 Lion King, you've seen the whole fucking thing.
So, guys, any bold predictions for this sports week going forward?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you the NFL makes another poor PR decision.
That's not bold.
That's not bold at all.
I got two things to say. One is just a general commentary thing I want to say is the Pacers at 18 drafted Goga Bitadze out of Georgia, and Goga looks up to Zaza Pachulia, who's a fellow Georgian citizen. Anyway, not everybody knows this, but I'm actually in a group chat with you guys on Instagram. And everything that I send to you guys on Instagram, I also send to Goga Bitadze in hopes that he might reply one day. So literally everything you guys have ever gotten from me, it also goes to him.
Are you serious?
Every single
Well,
thing.
Every single thing. And the thing is, like, when he first got drafted, I was like, you know what? Like, he's not that big time. If I send him a message and, like, say, you know, congrats on coming to Indy and all this stuff, he might reply back to me. He didn't even read it. So I've just been on a mission to at least see the seen message or notification up there. So I message him a lot. I probably message him 2 or 3 times a day.
Is he active on Instagram? Does he post a lot, or?
He'll post occasionally. He probably doesn't even run his own social media.
That's awesome.
But my bold prediction is by this time next week, Chris Paul will be traded to the Magic. I've been scouring the NBA trade machine for situations and cap flexibility that would work. If the Magic send Evan Fournier, Markelle Fultz, and DJ Augustine, they can acquire CP3. There's going to be some shuffling of some picks. Some people think that the Thunder are going to have to include a pick when they send CP3 out, do like a pick swap kind of thing. So we'll see. They feel like the discussions have been tabled for the time being, but that's my bold prediction.
I actually love that bold prediction.
I love how you scoured the internet for a possible trade.
Well, it took me a long time to figure it out, and it's tough right now because the guys who are just now signed can't even be traded till December 15th, which is bullshit. See, in real life, you can't just sim ahead to December 15th like you can on 2K.
Yeah, that makes it a lot easier to find out what's going to happen in the NBA.
Yeah, instead of 5 months, it's 5 seconds.
My bold prediction. So, in the MMA world this last weekend, Greg Hardy pulled off another win to the disdain of many fans, including myself. And there's a guy out there that we haven't heard a whole lot out of lately since the fight with Daniel Cormier. It is Derek Lewis, also known as the Black Beast. He has been on record before saying that he would love to basically dismantle Greg Hardy, and he doesn't like women beaters and all that good stuff that, Derek Lewis brings to an interview. I predict that the UFC will have to set that fight up. I don't know if it's going to be Derek Lewis pushing for it or just everybody else. It's been a big thing. They're wanting to get him to fight somebody that's actually ranked. Derek Lewis happens to be ranked like 5th or 6th in the UFC rankings. So I predict it won't be anything coming out this week. Unfortunately, we have such a slow week in sports. But I think that is a fight that maybe the fans can push for, and we could really look forward to. Greg Hardy, Black Beast. Black Beast beats him down. Anything else before we wrap this show up?
Greg Hardy's the guy who played football, huh?
Oh, yeah.
John
That's
Jones
fucked.
is...
Oh, yeah.
John Jones is, I'm guessing, for battery in Albuquerque, Texas. I just saw that on ESPN.
Wow. One of my buddies at class today said that that happened, but he said it was like on a weird website, so he didn't know if it was actually true.
Oh.
Interesting.
John Jones, get together, bud.
Yeah. Stay out of Fletcher's DMs.
I was about to say he slid into my DMs once talking shit. I didn't talk anything back, but
That surprises
yeah,
me.
you scared?
yep. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Fletcher was.
You know what, though? I would say this. I've been hit by a car. I don't know if I'd rather be hit by a car again or be hit by John Bones Jones.
You want the car.
Probably the car, yeah, especially if
you'll
it's
take
another
the car.
Prius.
It's the coolest stuff after it hits you.
Yeah. John Jones.
Yeah, John Jones didn't stop, and he's going to keep going.
And on that note, Dippers, for Drake, for Leighton, and Fletcher, as always, stay saucy.